Well, look at this group having some kind of meeting and being so diverse. There is just one of every kind of you, isn't there?
No offense, gentlemen, sirs, no offense.
A good story is timeless. That's why the original Snow White still holds up today. And for all the complaining Rachel Zegler in particular did about how antiquated the original is,
Weird.
it's hilarious, and yet not surprising in any way, that the newly released remake is already extremely dated. In this new and supposedly improved version, Snow isn't gentle and indirect, she's actually passive. The relationship with the love interest is not fleshed out and improved upon, it's empty, chemistryless, and at times uncomfortable. The storytelling is, I don't even know where to begin with that. But seeing how long this video is, I clearly have a lot to say about it. And because Disney is really trying hard to appeal to two very different crowds with this story, it's basically not just one, but two terrible movies, smushed together into the runtime of one. I always want to go into things giving them a fair chance, even if I'm not expecting them to be good, but obviously I've already seen the movie at this point, and I don't know if you can tell, but I really did not like it. Of course, it is not my dislike that makes this a very bad movie, and I will be pointing out the things that this movie does well. There's not a lot of them, but I do want to be fair. So let's get on with it then. Let's go through Disney's rather embarrassing 2025 Snow White remake and discover why it's such a bad movie, what it misses about the original, what it adds and changes that shows a fundamental misunderstanding and disrespect towards not only the original film, but also storytelling in general. And hopefully you'll get some tips for your own writing too, mostly on things not to do, unfortunately. In the past, I've done a brief-ish summary of the media I'm covering and then broken the analysis up into different sections after the summary, but as I've gained a little experience, I've discovered it's much easier for me if I address issues as I come across them in the story. So the critique and the analysis are going to be intertwined with the summary, and then I'll give a quick recap of the issues at the end. Oh, also, since I do occasionally refer back to the original film, I will be calling the 2025 Snow White character Snow and the 1937 one Snow White. Also, since there aren't nicely defined sections this time, whoopsie, to break things up, there's a timestamp roughly every time there was a song, so if you're looking for where you left off, or a specific part in the movie, hopefully this will help. Okay, now let's get started. The opening is very similar to the original, even including the same storybook, which would be a beautiful reference to the original if the rest of the movie wasn't the way that it was. Also, the CGI animals surrounding the storybook are horrifying, so solid start all around.
Once upon a time, there was a peaceful kingdom ruled by a virtuous queen and king.
Oh no! I didn't want to critique something so minor so soon, but what is happening with the narrator's voice? What's the word for it? Off-putting. Incredibly so. Okay, the unfortunately narrated storybook prologue lets us know that the kingdom is peaceful, the king and queen are virtuous, they want a child, and 9 months later, the queen gives birth in a carriage during a bitter snowstorm. I guess this was animated by someone who's never experienced a lake effect blizzard, cause yeah, this is nothing. In the snow belt, we call this Monday.
Now you can go back to Puxatawny, or you can go ahead and freeze to death. I'm thinking.
Still at the beginning, but already we've come to the first of the many dumb changes. It's fine Snow was born during a snowstorm. Whatever. But the only reason this is relevant information to the story is to excuse the poor casting choice of Rachel Zegler, someone who neither looks the part nor respects the source material. We're told to honor the night she was born, her parents named her Snow White. I mean, just name her Snow, or cast someone different. Pedro Pascal would have made a better Snow White. Listen, I don't care about her ancestry, but she clearly doesn't either because from what I've seen, haven't done the deepest of dives. But from what I've seen, she doesn't really advertise being Polish because that's not beneficial to her, but emphasizing her Colombian ancestry is really beneficial to her. Also, I'm pretty sure there are light-skinned Colombians too, but whatever. It just comes off as really disingenuous and opportunistic. And I wouldn't care either way as long as she at least looked the part. On top of all that, while Zegler does have a nice voice, man, she is not a great actress. She shouldn't have been considered for this part at all because she doesn't look the part, but she's not even doing a good job at the one thing she's supposed to be doing. And off-screen, she is so disrespectful to the source material, doesn't understand it, and clearly doesn't value any of the qualities that made Snow White such a wonderful princess. She doesn't have to be Snow White, she's supposed to be acting, but at least show some respect and understanding of the importance of the role you've been given and the story you're representing. Jeez. Anyways, then we get this rather unmemorable opening song about how prosperous the kingdom is. Snow, the king and queen, and their people all dance around the town. After watching the movie though, is their kingdom just this town? I think there's forests and stuff, but was it inhabited other than the dwarves? Doesn't really matter. Everyone's happy, everyone has enough. It's a kingdom for the free and the fair. I see what they're trying to do. Zegler mentioned this in her interviews about the fairest of them all being about leadership rather than beauty, but they actually try to make it about both, and as I'm sure you can imagine, neither goes well. Neither goes well? Neither pronunciation.
Neither.
Ugh, it's too loud. Okay, it was neither. Why have I heard neither?
Neither.
Oh, neither is British. Well, the castle and the town are beautiful, and I do like that there's so much color, as there should be, and it doesn't look lifeless and imaginationless like so many of the more recent remakes. So the king and queen teach Snow to rule with love so that one day she will be prepared to lead. I think that's great. I don't think the story continues this thread very well, but we'll get there. Maybe the idea of teaching Snow so she grows into the person she needs to be one day ties into the lyrics about planting seeds and something growing. Maybe it's just how abundant the land is, we'll see. But the land is indeed abundant. I like this idea though, that you have to actively do something in order to expect a result in the future. That's great. Also, I don't know or really see in the story how this works in practice, especially in a land ruled by a thankfully benevolent monarchy, but the song does bring up that the bounty of the land belongs to everyone, and that whatever belongs to the monarchs also actually just belongs to everyone. Don't worry though, it's just sharing. That's what nice people do, and you want to be a nice person, right? But also, we don't even really see this in practice. Why is their dwelling, why are their clothes so much nicer than everyone else's? So I made a joke in my video about the original Snow White asking why the dwarves were mining for gems in the first place. Are they getting paid? What are the gems for? I don't need more information than that, but even though they brought the gems up in this first song, it still didn't really answer any questions or set anything up. It's not purposeless. It does reinforce the idea that the kingdom is very wealthy, so that's fine, but we could have done more with that. There's the recurring message that if you tend to the land, it will give back, which is actually, probably unintentionally, related to the original in the way that it dealt with nature. I'm not going to get into it more here, but in my original video, I talk about how the story deals with this concept in a much more symbolic way. But now we potentially have this theme of investing and harvesting. They say this kingdom is where the good things grow. Is this just referring to the bountiful harvest, or is there more to it than that? Because there really does need to be a good story and to justify this remake. The next part I will give them credit for. The king and queen tell their daughter Snow that she needs to have a vision of who she wants to become in the future. That is very good advice. It's incredibly important to have a vision of who you want to be. Because if you want to change, you need a goal, something to aim for. They tell her she needs to be someone who's fearless, fair, brave, and true. That's great, you should definitely tell your kid that, but also maybe be a little more specific. Explain these concepts a little more to a kid. Then the story tries to tie this into her looking at her reflection in the wishing well. I'm kind of torn because in theory, it's a fine way to nod to the wishing well from the original, but what bigger role will this play in the story other than just, hey, this is a thing from the original. You like that, right? Speaking of apples,
Stop horsing around with my apples.
which are a thing from the original, you like that, right? Snow and her family bake apple pies for everyone.
I baked y'all an apple pie.
Yeah!
Apple pie! I'm gonna eat it all before you even get there!
No!
I have some questions about that practice, but I will save that for later. it is a fine idea in theory.
So, humans like apple pies.
Yeah, I guess. Why?
No reason.
Oh. Okay. Snow sees a little girl and gives her a flower crown, which is not a necessity, but a nicety that's very important for later. Also, a flower crown? Really? Anyone can give anyone a flower crown. If you want to impress me with this kingdom where everything belongs to everyone, give them something that's yours, something important to you, something you'd miss. Although I guess it's not even yours if it's everyone's anyway, so what's the point of giving anything to anyone? You're not really giving it if it already belongs to them. This is stupid. Then the mom dies and her reflection in the well disappears, which from a creative standpoint I like. And there's a lot happening in these first 4 minutes and then very little happening the rest of the movie. The evil queen shows up and, because I love you, I'll spare you the narrator's awful voice saying, "So great was her beauty that it seemed to grant her powers beyond the ordinary." Although I guess you had to hear more of my voice, which I can't imagine was any better. So, does her power come from her beauty or not? Because the narrator says it seemed that her powers were a result of her beauty. Is this a secret? We're gonna find out later, because if her powers come from being fair, as in a good leader, she just seems to get more powerful as the movie progresses. And if it's about being the most beautiful, she's still incredibly powerful even after the completely believable reveal that Snow is more attractive? I don't think Zegler is unattractive. I've seen her styled well before, but this movie is doing her no favors. However, she has made clear her disdain for the values of the original Snow White film, and exhibited rather ugly behavior in her interviews, which makes her casting even more insane, because as we learned from the original, true beauty is good character. Snow White isn't good because she's beautiful because she is good. The point was that her outward beauty is a reflection of her inner character. Anyone who worked on this remake clearly missed that point, and therefore has zero business working on it. It's not just apparent this early on in the movie, it was apparent before the movie even came out. I know they tried to backtrack a little, but it doesn't go well. Anyways, evil queen marries the king, and then the narrator, who I hate, says that she wasn't what she appeared. She was evil. Just like that.
Why are you telling me all this? It's plot exposition. It has to go somewhere. Anyway.
So, okay, there are some times when you need to do some direct exposition. It sometimes is unavoidable, but oh my gosh, not like this.
Not like this. Not like this.
First of all, everyone knows this story. You should make information clear even in a remake, but by making information clear, I don't mean just straight up say, she was evil. Establish that information by showing me that she's evil. Use some subtlety, I beg you. This isn't a preschool show. The line, "she was evil," for the purpose of establishing that information, should not ever appear in any writing, ever.
Can you imagine watching Star Wars and then all of a sudden all the characters are like, Darth Vader is so evil. Here's the list of all the things he has done.
Unless it's for comedic purposes or something. On the other hand, sometimes information is unclear and should be stated more directly. Now the story says the queen does get her power from her beauty. What does that mean? Your power comes from your beauty? So is the story going to be about pretty privilege now? She was made queen solely because of her beauty and does have literal powers because of her beauty? But is that what the story's about now? Is that why they cast Rachel Zegler? More magic lore. The magic mirror's purpose is to protect the queen's power, and the mirror can only answer one question. Who is the fairest in the land? But she still has her power after the story tries to convince me that Zegler is the more attractive one. What?
That just raises further questions!
How did this information improve the story? Instead of just accepting the magic mirror for what it is, like in the original, now I have questions. Moving on. Okay, something I do like. To get rid of the king, she doesn't kill him directly. She sends him away to his death. telling him there was a threat to the south. Very indirect, very feminine, in a bad way. Before he leaves with his soldiers, the king gives Snow a heart-shaped locket that says, "Fearless, fair, brave, and true." That's also great. Keep these things close to your heart. I like that. So little to like in this movie, but I do want to point out where there is something good. After the king left, people were afraid, the queen got more power, so did she become more beautiful too? She turned the farmers into soldiers. Did they not have a military before? Because we know there are outside threats, and there is a military, and we just saw the king sent off to war. Is this because she didn't think this through and needed more soldiers, or was she actually brilliant and was replacing the soldiers who would be loyal to the king with farmers who would also be loyal to the king? I don't know. This is kind of weird. What are the soldiers doing? They all went off to war? Why would you leave your kingdom unprotected like that? Are there no farmers now? We're just beating our plowshares into swords and our pruning hooks into spears? Oh, maybe that is the point. Maybe the farmers are roses and the soldiers are diamonds. That'll make sense in a minute. Maybe I'm just trying too hard to give the writers some credit. The queen then gives Snow the iconic guy from Shrek haircut. I've never seen the movie, I just know that she looks like this guy. I've seen this guy before. And makes her a servant, specifically because the queen was jealous of her beauty?
Okay, boys, stay with me.
That doesn't sound right. Whew, that was a long introduction. Oh, the villagers sing about wondering if things were ever better before. Oh my gosh, the introduction's still not done. The villagers are singing. Snow looks on for the castle for years, wishing she could help. Okay, now the introduction's done. So close. So at the very least, present day Snow is diligent and she's not complaining about her work. I wouldn't fault her for that. Even Cinderella noted the unfairness and frustration she felt about her situation. Snow hears something, and in a very underwhelming meet cute, Snow asks Prince Charming, who is now a thief instead, to put the potatoes back. Ah, that's why they didn't race swap the love interest. Snow and the thief talk about some very obvious information we already knew, or at the very least could have easily figured out from the context. Solid storytelling, guys. Why does so much modern media do this, though? Conversations should not be direct summaries of the information I'd already gathered from the clunky exposition. Stop doing this!
Stop it!
The worst I've ever seen this was in, what was that Star Wars show? The Acolyte. But even Arcane does this. It's bad. Don't do this. You know you can gather information from a regular sounding conversation instead of people just saying, "She is evil." You shouldn't ever have to say that. The thief justifies his stealing by saying that the queen has more than him. What are you, that raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy?
What if I see something that I want to take and it belongs to someone else?
You will be arrested.
But what if I want it more than the person who has it?
Still illegal.
That doesn't follow. No, I want it more, sir.
And when, to her credit, Snow does push back, he says he's hungry. But if you want me to believe he's telling the truth, have him start with that because now it comes off as an excuse to get Snow off his back.
Get off my back. Oh, okay, let me get off of that thing real quick.
So I wonder what the story will say or change about his attitude. Or, like so many modern stories, just reinforce that stealing is okay if someone has more than you. We're told, very directly of course, that Snow is passive. We're also shown this too, so it's at least mostly consistent in this regard. That is interesting though. I wonder how she's gonna grow there because I know that was a complaint about the original Snow White. A very ignorant complaint. After all that, please tell me Snow in this remake is actually just passive. That would be hilarious and sad. So then Snow talks to the animals about how maybe the queen doesn't know about sharing.
You do know what sharing is, right?
Sharing?
And yes, she says it that directly.
I'm sure if the queen was aware of how desperate things have gotten, she would be happy to share.
Is she stupid? I know she's sheltered, but if you have to make excuses for why a character's acting a certain way, especially when the storytelling is this direct, maybe it's just bad storytelling. Her acting here in particular is also painful to watch. It's so insincere. There shouldn't be anything weird about a princess talking to animals in a princess movie, but it's like she doesn't understand what a kind and gentle person is actually like, and is also a bad actor, so she just has to fake it. We were already told of Snow's passivity, but now she's by the wishing well, wishing for something to happen, which of course is very passive. It's sitting around waiting for something to happen, which is funny because the original Snow White was never passive. She was indirect. She took action when she needed to and didn't sit around waiting for something to happen. So is the wishing well supposed to represent Snow's passivity? Because earlier it was used to show the reflection of who she was supposed to grow up to be, which doesn't just happen, that's intentional. Are the reflections showing potential while the well itself reflects passivity? I think I'm giving the writers too much credit again. On to something positive. Have I said how much I love the Queen's crown? Because it is incredible. It's a visual detail, which unfortunately doesn't mean much if the rest of the story's garbage, but it is a good change. This room is great too. Her outfit, also great. Just good vibes all around.
She's mean because she has so much drip and won't share it.
Okay. Maybe that's the true lesson of this movie. Again with the preschool lessons though. Snow comes in to talk to the Queen about sharing. And again, says it that directly. I came to talk about sharing.
It's what I came to speak to you about, actually. Sharing.
It's called being nice. Ever heard of it? Nice. Oh, you made that up.
Huh. Maybe Zegler and the writers and the directors don't understand kindness or innocence either. Because they are not writing it well. She comes off as an idiot.
A complete moron, and complete morons are rare.
And kind people aren't idiots by default. Anyone can be an idiot. The only surefire way to determine if someone's an idiot is if they subscribe to this channel. What's up, idiots? Still speaking of idiots, the storytelling is very direct, but it doesn't say that the people are struggling. Just that they have less than they used to. Obviously, the Queen is wrong. She's a bad leader. But it's not been said that she's taken anything from anyone. She just has more. And I think that's purposeful. I think that's entirely intended. Snow brings up that her parents used to bake pies for the people. And the Queen mocks this because the people don't need luxuries.
Or luxuries? They don't need luxuries. It confuses them.
But I mean, she's not wrong. No one needs luxuries. And apple pies are a want, not a need. They are a luxury. But this means that the issue isn't that the Queen has taken things from people. It's that she has things and she's not sharing. So even though it is brought up, they don't focus on the bad leadership. They're focusing on making the Queen such a cartoonishly goofy villain. You hopefully miss the fact that the townspeople are apparently fine. She just has more, and it would be really nice if she gave all her stuff to other people. Sure, that would be really cool of her, but she doesn't have to if it's hers. And the end of the movie barely nods at the deceitful means by which she claimed the throne and the kingdom, because not sharing with everyone is why the kingdom is so desaturated now. But that's just not how things work. There's two lessons here. First, one of the purposes of storytelling is to open people to new ideas. Two, even fantasy stories have to be somewhat grounded in reality or some kind of internal consistency. It doesn't matter whether I agree with your viewpoint or not, you have to sell this to me, open my mind to where I'm wrong. This sentiment is just like in Arcane when Echo says, it's not enough to survive, you need to give people what they need to live.
It's not enough to give people what they need to survive. You have to give them what they need to live.
It's not active, it's passive. You have to be given something, obviously by someone else, who somehow has the thing you need to be given. The Snow White movie at least tries to frame it as cutesy kindergarten sharing, but no one's sharing with the Queen. they're demanding that she share with them. So it's actually not about sharing, it's that other people who have more than you are obligated to give you things, which is extremely selfish. And if that's really your mindset, you are not gonna make it far in life. And this entitled attitude is also gonna make you very unhappy. Why do stories like this never have the people with less setting the example and sharing what little they have with others? Because it's not really about sharing, it's about taking. And also that you need things to be happy. This doesn't encourage kindness and community and generosity. It encourages entitlement and selfishness. Okay, I want to circle back around and talk about the pies for a second.
Me too. Tell me more about these pies.
I knew that would summon you. So I know in the story it's just sharing is good and trying to incorporate the apples more, but what are the apples supposed to represent now? Abundance? Sharing? How is that going to play into the poison apple at the end? I actually think the pies are a really cool idea. This could be a really interesting tradition to have. Maybe once a year or something, the monarchs make a pie themselves and share it with the people. They're busy, so it would have to be on a very small scale, but it could be a symbolic gesture to show that they understand the lives and the needs of their people. They're not above doing that kind of labor. It helps them to remember the kind of work their people do day to day. It gives them a break from all the important monarch stuff they do, and it can represent their generosity and the bounty of the land. I think that would be a really cool tradition, world-building wise. You know, if this was a good movie and not made by preschoolers for preschoolers. Who am I kidding? Preschoolers would be bored by this, and they deserve better movies anyway. What is the target audience for this movie? College-educated women?
Why would I want that?
Don't girls like stuff like this?
Maybe stupid girls.
The conversation between the Queen and Snow is painfully direct and so poorly written. The Queen doesn't like that Snow is so opinionated, so she says exactly that. She also says that being fearless, fair, brave, and true are useless, as we get some direct yet kind of confusing symbolism where the Queen compares a weak, useless, fragile flower to the everlasting, flawless, beautiful, hard, unyielding diamond. The subjects don't want a flower, they want a diamond. I mean, okay, but what's your point? I guess this is just a really direct comparison to Snow's perceived flaws and the Queen's perceived strengths and her terrible leadership skills. I'm gonna be watching to see how often this imagery comes up, because otherwise, why include it? Just as a pointless object lesson? It's a visual medium. Use it. Are we gonna see a flower weathering a storm? A diamond breaking? It's also just so unnuanced. There's no understanding of being commanding versus demanding, or gentleness versus passivity. So far, but this also would have been a good scene to establish some of that. You know, if this was a movie you expected anyone with an IQ higher than their shoe size to watch. I guess Snow did give that little girl a flower crown, so that's kind of continuing that visual symbolism. Kind of. The thief is caught and brought in. The crime? Being the love interest, but not stealing any hearts. However, if you're gonna do direct exposition, at least do it the way the Queen does it right here. She says, "Are you one of the bandits who steals in the name of the king?" Well, that's all the information we needed to know. Would the king want you stealing, though? That's his legacy. If people won't share with you, make them share. The Queen is wrong for not sharing, but the others aren't wrong for stealing? Who needs a basic preschool lesson now, writers? Give it to me or I'll take it? Like a toddler? This is so dumb.
Man, this is terrible. Those guys are really overpaid.
If I was a neighboring kingdom, would I just keep an eye on these guys or, no. I would attack, add their bountiful lands they keep bragging about to my expanding empire. They're dumb, it won't take long. And if I don't do it, someone else will. Turns out I was the threat to the South this whole time. The way they try to establish the Queen as being evil is just, it's so goofy. Burn his home, take him to the dungeon to torture him. I mean, real people do way more evil things. It's just that in this movie, it's kind of silly. Like the equivalent of kicking a puppy. The story has to make her look comically evil to distract from the good guys also kind of being evil. Because she is right, he stole from her. But you're supposed to focus on how much worse she is. Both parties are wrong. Stealing is wrong, and her punishments are too harsh. But also, it would be very easy to not need to be punished. If you can't do the time freezing to death outside, don't do the crime, stupid. We don't ever see the Queen mercilessly persecuting innocent people, just meting out punishment to an actual criminal. Snow agrees that the punishment is too harsh, and the thief finds out that Snow is the princess. Snow says that justice is important, and I do want to give credit for that, but it feels like a line just put there to shut people like me up. Oh, she said justice. They do think stealing is wrong, because I don't think they actually do think it's wrong. We don't know what punishment Snow would have suggested, just that she thinks this one is too harsh. With this move, you can placate both the audience members who think stealing is wrong and justice must be served, so Snow can be a good guy in their eyes, and also get away with her not suggesting an alternative punishment to placate the crowd that doesn't want there to be any punishment for the crime, so Snow can still be a hero in their eyes as well. Turns out you can make everyone happy. Not me, though.
Am I better than everyone?
Listen, I've made enough fun of Zegler's acting, and I'm gonna do it again, but here, what is going on with Gal Gadot? She is very beautiful, but I don't remember her being this terrible of an actress. Is it just the directing? Maybe Zegler also isn't a bad actress, it's just the directing? What were they going for here? Ultimate cringe? Be as fake as possible. I mean, if they were going for that, well done. You hit the nail on the proverbial head. For his punishment, the Queen says, "He stole from me, so I'm gonna steal from him," and tells the guards to take his clothes and tie him up so he freezes to death. Do y'all not have standardized punishments? Because you do have the concepts of theft and justice and punishments. This is pretty minor. You knew about the thieves in the forest who stole in the king's name. This hasn't happened before. Also, the farmers are just going along with this? What motivation did the farmers have? Because this isn't a preschool show, you need to think through at least some of this. And if it's supposed to be symbolic, make it better. The Queen forces Snow to look in the mirror and really awkwardly mocks her for not being able to do anything, saying she lives in a world of wishes. I wish to be done with this movie. And to go back to her well. Does she just hang out there? But we do have reflections and wishes again, so it's reinforcing Snow needing to have a vision of who she's going to become, and the wishes and possibly the wishing well representing her current passivity, which seems kind of weird and maybe even a dig at the original, but I do like the consistency. The Queen mocks the idea of the pies again, but really, what are the pies gonna do? The Queen says they're luxuries, which they are, and Snow says it's showing the people kindness, which is also a good thing. Both are wrong and neither are wrong. You don't need luxuries. And being a kind ruler, not airheaded like Snow so far, but truly kind, is a good thing. We know the world they live in has threats and dangers. We established that with both the arrival of the Queen and the departure of the King. Pies aren't gonna help with any of that. But being kind and also not needing luxuries aren't opposites. They aren't at odds with each other in any way. I know that the point they're trying to make is that it's not kind for those other rich people to not give you luxuries, but that's dumb, and it's entitled. Eat the rich? No thanks. I'm trying to minimize the plastics in my diet, micro or otherwise. Song time! Okay, so this song follows Snow to her wishing well and cleaning around the castle. She makes really weird facial expressions a lot. Not just in this song, I just noticed it more here.
And screaming, "Make your face better," doesn't help. Well, I'm sorry. Your face just isn't working.
Not to read too much into things, but it's like she's trying to hold back her girl bossness at all times. Being demure and gentle is so against her nature and beneath her. Girl, it's acting. Do your one job. Yet another reason she shouldn't have been cast.
Doesn't she also do stage acting or something?
Yeah, I think so.
I've heard it's hard to transition to film acting if you're used to stage acting because you have to overact and exaggerate your expressions so much.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Is that the oven timer? What are you doing in the kitchen?
Oh, gotta go.
Well, that's somewhat concerning. You know what? It's fine. It'll be fine. I'll deal with it later. The lyrics reiterate what we already know from the rest of the story. She feels trapped and isolated, wanting to help but can't because she's not the girl she's meant to be yet. She had a glimpse of this girl when she was a baby and braved that storm, but even if you can overlook that she would never actually remember that, girl, you were a newborn baby. That is generally one of the most dependent times of a person's life. You didn't actively do anything. You only survived because of all the care you had from other people. And I know that's not the point they're trying to make. She sings that she's waiting on a wish. The song is positive, hopeful, and upbeat, so it's supposed to be a good thing that she's waiting on a wish? Because that's incredibly passive. She sings that she hopes she'll become the girl she wants to be. Hope is a good thing, patience is a good thing, but neither of those things are passive. Sitting around waiting for change, waiting to become the girl boss you already were this whole time, is. She wants to be her father's daughter, and I will 100% give them credit for giving her a strong father figure that inspired her, even though he's absent at this point. It's not completely his fault, although unless the queen put a spell on him or something, it's at least partially his fault. But yeah, I can't believe she respects and wants to continue honoring her father. Credit for that. She says, "Is this girl a part of me I've yet to find? Will she appear?" So is Snow going to have to do something active, or because women in media never have to change and are perfect the way they are, she just has to find who she already was this whole time? What an absolutely wild mindset to have. You have your whole life to continue growing, learning, maturing. Imagine stunting yourself like this because of your fragile ego and arrogance. And if you think this is just media, I do know people like this in real life. Mostly women, but also not just women. The lyrics talk about how will she lead or just be led, never daring to disobey. I mean, the problem isn't that you're following or obeying someone else. The king was, as far as we know, a good man, and it's good that the soldiers were following their leader. It's not the following that's a problem, unless you're a self-obsessed girl boss. It's that the queen is a bad leader and is not fearless, fair, brave, and true. Why did we need fearless, though? It's kind of repetitive since we have brave, and being truly fearless is kind of stupid. There are some things you absolutely should be afraid of.
The only thing we have to fear is gigantic man-eating spiders!
And in those situations is when you would need to be brave. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's persevering in spite of it. Snow says she hopes a miracle finds her, which is both an external rather than internal solution, and a passive solution as well. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, if you're into things that are terrible.
I close my eyes and see who I'm meant to be. Is she a part of me I've had to hide? So yeah, it is that you already are perfect, you just have to look inside yourself. Did the writers not realize how passive this song is? Especially after crapping all over the original, this is actual passivity. All you have to do for your wish to come true is let it echo. What, like manifest? Like if you believe it or repeat it enough, it'll come true? Does this mean remaining constantly hopeful? Or you put out into the world what you'd like to receive back, like an echo? I guess, if you really try to help this movie more than it deserves, the first song did include the concept of tending actively to something and seeing the fruits of your labor. But the message so far has been about sharing, kind of, and that you only have to share if you have more. If you have less than anyone else, you don't have to share. That's not an echo. Well, it's an echo of something. Maybe passivity is the point, because then she decides to do something active and frees the thief and gives him quest food. A hunk of bread, the only hunk in this scene. This whole movie, really. There's a weird, uncomfortable moment where their hands touch. The thief tells her she's brave, which on one hand is too direct for a story not for babies. However, this does redeem itself somewhat because it is the thief encouraging Snow, something love interests should do. She sings that she needs to learn to be her father's daughter, so if on purpose, I will give them credit for, because learning is active, and this change in lyrics happened after the thief encouraged her, giving more weight to their potential relationship. So, 2 good points. She sings about how she wants to be someone no one needs to save. However, she did need 2 men to encourage her to change. I don't have a problem with this, it's just funny.
No, I need 2 men on this. That's what she said. No time, but she did. No time!
Especially considering what's been said about the original. Then the song ends with her waiting on a wish again, so I don't know. We'll see. I have very low expectations, and yet I still think I expect too much from this movie. The queen saw all this happen and rushes to her magic mirror to ask if she's still the prettiest. But after a man told her she was brave, suddenly Snow is more beautiful? So the queen tells the huntsman to take Snow White to a secluded place where she could pick apples and then kill her. Gorgeous room, great set. What are the apples supposed to represent here?
What? It's just apple juice.
What kind of apples are you using? Well, that's probably nothing to worry about. Anyways, is this supposed to be the queen giving Snow Beige false hope? The huntsman doesn't want to kill Snow, also his acting is terrible, but the queen will give him anything his heart desires if he brings back Snow's heart. I should play a bigger part in the story, or I don't know, just leave it out. In the original, the queen wanting Snow's heart wasn't just wanting proof of her death, it's also because of how kind and caring Snow was. Basically, the essence of who Snow was as a person. What does it mean here? Snow is out picking apples in her classic dress, and wow, does it look terrible. It looks cheap. Why does it look so cheap? Look at the queen's costumes. They're, for the most part, pretty great. So why is this dress in particular so awful looking? It looks like something I'd find on clearance after Halloween. I'd like to know what Snow is thinking here during this scene, which is something you could have gone into in a 2-hour remake. Does she think things might be turning around after talking with the queen? The story is so direct and straightforward, but then here I have questions and I don't want the answers just given to me.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
But a little clarity would have helped and made the story a little more interesting. This just seems like it should be an important moment. As the apples have represented bounty and generosity until now, it makes sense that Snow in her kindness would offer the huntsman an apple. Even though he could easily pick one himself, it's still a fine way to show a kind gesture. Even though I do kind of take issue with him saying, "You're very kind." There's nothing inherently terrible about this line. Sometimes lines like this are necessary, but when most of the dialogue is like this, it stands out. It's bad. He takes his dagger out, she asks why, and sticks her chin out. Super weird. I don't know, you couldn't have done another take? Is this acting?
Acting!
The huntsman tells her to flee because the queen is evil and a liar. Again, that's not a summary of what he said, that's just what he said. And tells her that she doesn't know the truth about her father. And then he screams at her until she runs away into the woods. And you know what? Nothing will top the animated sequence. The beauty of the animation, the way it conveyed Snow's fear, amazing. However, this scene is also pretty great. It's unfortunately not as meaningful as the animated version, but man, do I want to see more live-action adaptations using lighting like this. I don't know that the blue and red particularly symbolized anything in this story. Apples are red, roses are red, but are diamonds blue? I mean, maybe. Visually, this is a beautiful sequence, but it is devoid of the meaning the original had. The eyes were just animals who eventually helped her. The trees seeming to be grabbing at her were just branches, ripping her dress as she fled from the danger. But because it's live action, it's unclear whether this is in her imagination or not because there's nothing really symbolic about it. Then, once she's through the forest, the sequence where she falls into the water feels more like The Hunger Games or some action movie rather than a live-action fairy tale. It just has a weird vibe to it, different from the rest of the movie. And the weird noises and thinking it's a wolf in the woods rather than a gentle deer, it's much easier to convey that kind of thing through animation rather than live action. It just doesn't work as well here. She holds out food to the creepy CGI deer. I guess it is animated, but it's not the same. She She might think she's out of the creepy forest, but here's where the true horror begins as she's suddenly surrounded by dozens of CGI animals. Yikes. It doesn't have the same weight as it does in the original. There, nature acknowledges and rewards Snow for her kindness, and here Snow seems inauthentic at best. And the overall tone is a little bit inconsistent as well. Sometimes it wants to be more realistic and serious, but then she's goofily talking to some animals by the wishing well. It made sense in the original, and here it just seems like another thing they included just because it happened in the original. More weird facial expressions because that's acting, I guess. The CGI animals lead her to the CGI dwarves' CGI cottage. Animals just do not work here. I am not entirely joking about how creepy they look. It is off-putting. Uncanny Valley animals. They look like animals, but not quite. That's what it is. I don't like it. Anyways, Snow follows the animals into the cottage and upstairs to the dwarves' beds, and in her dirty, nasty, outside clothes, still wet from falling in the river, goes to sleep on top of their beds. What the heck? Rude. Now, you might try to excuse this by saying that the animals were pushing her upstairs towards the bed, and I guess she really is passive, so that checks out, but what really big thing changed here? She just barges in uninvited, and instead of cleaning the house and showing how she could be useful, or at least showing some gratitude, she leaves the house dirtier than when she arrived. Now, I know girl bosses can never clean anything because it's beneath them, but wow. She does not add, well, she adds more dirt. She does not add anything positive to the dwarves' lives. Beauty, manners, care, genuine gentleness. She takes, and doesn't even offer anything in return. Nope. Bad change, terrible change. Cut to the CGI dwarves heading to work. They sing a song introducing themselves. It's not fun.
I'm sleepy. Yeah, we know!
And they introduce themselves to Snow later anyway, so why did we need this? Except to needlessly expand on the original. The interior of the mine is very cool. I do love the mines. If I can't mine for ore in a game, what's even the point? Okay, then we get some dwarf lore that I do hate to tell you, but it doesn't impact the story in any way whatsoever. They get a weird glowing mark on their hands that helps them identify ore, which also glows, different colors, which is beautiful, but what does it mean? Please somebody make this into a game. I long for the mines. And, as lovely as these mines are, this was a very long scene for so little information conveyed, just kind of pointless. No information about the gems and why they're doing this, they just give them to the kingdom? Do they get any pies? I am glad you're here. You gonna clean up after yourself? Whatever you're doing in there?
How am I supposed to clean up after myself? I don't have a corporeal form. Think, Jazz, think.
I am thinking. How did you make this mess in the first place? Speaking of being concerned, I am also very concerned about the characterization of Grumpy in this. Grumpy merch drives me crazy. It's like Grinch merch. Totally misses that the point of their character is the change they experienced. And the merch is always like, I'm grumpy, I'm a Grinch, I hate things. Yikes. In the original, Grumpy was, well, a misogynist. However, he still raised some extremely valid points. He said that women were poison and you can't trust them. And that was illustrated very well with the supposedly beautiful evil queen
She is gorgeous.
using her beauty for nefarious purposes. But Snow White showed him that he didn't need to fear beauty and femininity, and she improved the lives of all the dwarves, especially Grumpy. So, kind of the opposite of what's happening so far. Goody. We'll see what happens with Grumpy, but right now it just seems like he is grumpy, and that's it. We got a movie twice as long as the original, but the dwarves actually have just been reduced to the most basic representations of their names. Doc talks like he just figured out how to use a thesaurus. It is terrible. The dwarves are actually dumber in this. Well, not dumber. I don't think the original dwarves were dumb. They're just dumb. After work, they get back home to their dirtier and now occupied home. Gone is the realization that someone's been here because it's so much cleaner and someone left food for them. Wow, it's crazy that in the original Snow White was like, okay, what can I offer them? And in this, she's, what can they offer me? Especially when they're trying to go for a good leadership angle here. A good leader serves their people. Ask not what your dwarves can do for you, ask what you can do for your dwarves. It's so condescending. They're terrified of her, this random woman who broke into their house and messed it all up. And she just tells them not to be afraid. But come on! The optics of this. She says she only wanted to meet them. Did she just make that up? Or did she read the names on their beds before draping her soggy, dirt-covered dress over them? Then we find out Dopey's selectively mute or something, whatevs. The dwarves in the original weren't stupid. They were a little goofy because it was animated, but they weren't stupid. The dwarves in this are morons. Good gosh, why? So, unfortunately, Grumpy isn't misogynistic here. He doesn't hate women, he just hates humans.
When do we kill all humans?
Never.
But what about our motto? Doesn't it mean anything?
And so specifically brings up how annoying the bandits who fight in the king's name are. Why call yourself bandits then? Call yourself freedom fighters or something. Freedom comrades. And the queen can call them bandits. Openly admitting to being bandits is a choice. But it's also just a lazy, obvious way to give Snow the information that the bandits and her definitely straight true love are close by. To be fair, Grumpy is concerned that she might be in trouble with the law, which could get them in trouble, and that is in line with original Grumpy. But all he is suspicious, which is an aspect of his character, but it misses the point and essence of his character so terribly. She reveals that she's the princess, the queen tried to kill her, and when she tries to leave, the dwarves accept Grumpy, ask her to stay. See, in the original, Grumpy always had a point. He was too harsh and he changed, but nothing he said was without reason. We found out the dwarves are several hundred years old. Wow, I'm glad this movie's 2 hours long so I could learn this extremely important information. I'm sure that'll mean something to the story at some point, right? Snow says the forest is magical, so does that mean the trees actually were out to get her? But then why do we see her perception of the deer change? Is magic based on your perception? I don't know, this is dumb information, and the dwarves are also dumb. They introduce themselves in alphabetical order, but it's not actually alphabetical, so what was the point? Who cares? Who is this movie for?
Dopey, sleepy, sneezy, bashful, grumpy, happy, dot. Boom, you're wrong. Sorry, I take my Disney character seriously.
Oh, that's why they had the stupid introduction scene here. Okay, so don't forget that Snow White's mother taught her it's important to remember names. That, in itself, is fine. I actually like that. Is the reason that we need to know this information later? That's incredibly stupid. So now we're actively ignoring Grumpy, even though he was the voice of reason in the original. This is terrible. Grumpy was very risk-averse, but it worked in his favor because he's also very protective because of that. Strengths always have corresponding weaknesses. And in the original, he also always had an obvious soft side that Snow White brought out. Here, he's just in a bad mood. That's it. So, Snow actually decides to stay only because it started storming outside. She is incredibly passive. She doesn't choose to leave the castle. She doesn't look for a place to stay. She doesn't even decide to stay. She's at the whims of the environment around her, and it's not even a bad thing. Back at the castle, the mirror reveals that Snow is still alive. The mirror says it's bound by what's true. That raises a lot of questions for me, but okay. In the original, the huntsman gave the queen the heart of a pig. Here, he used an apple, which is supposed to mean what in this context?
Do you think I could substitute human hearts for apples?
I think it depends on the recipe.
Thank you.
It's fine. We have too many subscribers anyway. Had. Oh my goodness. Even more disturbing. Who let Gal Gadot sing? Oh, maybe I can just mute this and read the lyrics because this is quite unpleasant to listen to. Man, I thought the narrator was bad. Yikers. Someone messed up. She has to fix everything. Wow, this song is awful. To his credit, the huntsman does say that if she would show mercy, to show it to Snow. I guess she's the better choice, but only because the queen is so terrible. And in a movie that's supposed to be more mature and about leadership, Snow needed to demonstrate to both the viewers and the huntsman that she was fit, or at least becoming fit for the role. We needed more than the thief who fights in the king's name saying, "Wow, you're brave." Oh my gosh, a man told me I'm brave. I guess I am brave. That I know they didn't do on purpose. Again, I don't have a problem with that. I just think it's funny. Well, the song continues to be terrible, and it's not just how awful the singing is. The lyrics are so simplistic. I genuinely would expect more from something made for preschoolers. Who is the target audience for this? Nice will get you nowhere. Ambitious girls must be vicious girls. It's so far beyond unnuanced. I don't even know what to say. I don't think unnuanced is even a word. You know what I mean. Doc's using the thesaurus to write all his lines, and Ghost is doing whatever she's doing, so I can't check.
Don't worry about it.
Yep. The song says that a leader just does whatever she wants. Hurting people is fun. All is fair when you're the fairest of all. It's a lie that true beauty will shine from inside. Beauty means power, means I write the rules.
Time is money, money is power, power is pizza, pizza is knowledge. Let's go.
Remember when Disney villain songs were good?
Like fire, hellfire.
Very busy woman, and I haven't got
I'm not to blame. It is the gypsy girl, the witch who set this point that I must emphasize is. Bosses on a roll. Beware, you let me down, 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 down. Clear from your vacant expression. The lights are not all on upstairs.
Please don't defend this slop. We all deserve better stories than this. Better stories are possible. Better songs are possible. You know, if I mute the song, some of the choreography is fun to watch. The song ends after she tells the captain to search the forest for snow. Oh my gosh. So after the queen ends her song about fairness and the fairest, it cuts right to Grumpy saying, "It's not fair." This was clearly purposeful because it doesn't make sense for him to say this otherwise. So everyone else is working and doing things, and Snow is sitting around doing nothing, which I guess is what she does for the whole movie. Grumpy explains that everyone is named for their one definable trait, just in case you were too dopey to catch that. Grumpy says he's misunderstood right before a misunderstanding causes a fight among the dwarves. Snow comes rushing in to see what the commotion is. Why didn't they at least put red lipstick on her? I wouldn't even question why it's still on her after all this time, because that's part of the character. I joke about it, but I wouldn't actually think it was a bad decision. Just at least try to make her look like the character she's supposed to be playing. The dwarves' fight involves a lot of really dumb and poorly done physical humor, I guess.
Funny? It's not funny, you're joking!
They all laugh at some porridge falling on Dopey's head, and he runs outside all sad, and because we're supposed to feel bad for Dopey, he didn't even get to appreciate the one funny joke in this entire movie. One of the dwarves says, "Isn't life cruel?" That's it. That's the best writing in the entire movie.
No.
Yes.
You have absolutely no sense of humor, do you?
Snow follows Dopey outside. She tries to empathize with him. He's afraid to speak, just like Snow was, I guess. That's what she says.
That's what she said.
Michael, please.
Her lack of acting skills is really apparent in scenes like this. Then we get a stupid backstory for Whistle While You Work. We didn't need this. She said that her mom taught her to whistle so that when she was afraid, she could still whistle. So the voice hidden in your heart can be heard? What? First of all, this is the first time, thankfully, that this is coming up in the story. But then she also says to put your tongue behind your teeth to whistle. What? Am I the one doing things differently? Where else would it be? Ghost, come here. How do you whistle? Is your tongue behind your teeth?
I don't have a tongue.
Useless, as always. Wait, how are you cooking then? Ghost? Well, because the story wants me to think this isn't stupid, it all works out perfectly. That's basically my summary of the entire movie. They go back inside to complete chaos and possibly the worst line in the entire movie. Dopey gets the rest of the dwarves' attention by whistling, and one of them says, "What's that divine and ravishing noise?" Who approved this script?
Write that stuff.
So stupid.
Oh, wow. The rest of the dwarves also say really dumb things as they marvel over Dopey's new and ravishing skill. Yikes. Oh my gosh. Now that we've established how good Snow is at whistling, she whistles louder than a cat-calling construction worker to get their attention. Here's where Snow's character really fails. Unlike Snow White, Snow is not kind, she's condescending. She doesn't sound like she cares and wants to help. She sounds like she thinks she's right and everyone better listen to her. Quiet and somewhat soft-spoken, but still a girl boss at heart. She sounds fake. It's missing the heart and essence of Snow White. Snow White isn't opening your eyes really wide and talking slowly and softly. Real Grumpy would have picked up on this. It's the reason for his character in the first movie. Sometimes beautiful women are poison because it's what's on the inside that matters. So this next sequence. On one hand, it is fine that she's teaching them to clean up better after themselves, but they must have been doing something because their house wasn't that bad, and Grumpy was doing maintenance before the incident. And sure, this could show her being a good leader and delegating, but Snow doesn't really do anything herself. There is no leading by example in this movie, except for her parents. They are the exceptions to most of the issues with this movie. And the sequence completely misses what made Snow White so great. Snow White did all this work for the dwarves out of the kindness of her heart, not because she expected anything in return, even though, yes, she did take a nap in their house. Snow White thought they were children at first, before meeting them, but Snow treats them like children. Really stupid children. Although, to be fair, they are actually dumb. Snow and the dwarves are very poorly written. But in the original, even when Grumpy didn't listen to Snow White, she wasn't rude, she was firm. This is a lost art, it seems. Snow says they need to listen to each other, which could have been really good because in general, women tend to want to talk more about their problems, but can sometimes just want to talk or complain and not take any action. Whereas men, in general, are much better at taking action. But that can also be an issue because if you take action too quickly, you can miss other, better solutions or even misunderstand what the actual problem is in the first place. Crazy that men and women can naturally balance each other out that way. Obviously, there are exceptions. Obviously, there are variations within this. I'm talking in observable generalities. But that's not what we get here. She tells them to listen to each other and then they clean the house while she dances around. Okay, she does hold a broom for but a moment before passing it along to someone else. I guess you could try to say leading by example here, but don't. She also doesn't even help them get along. When they're bickering, she just tells them to drop it, like they're belligerent children. In this case, talking it through really would help. And also, they were talking things through before she got there anyway. The only thing Snow contributed here was the dirt she tracked through the house and onto their beds. Snow White would never. Isn't this the opposite of what her parents taught her, though? You're supposed to be in there with everyone else, baking pies for everyone, helping to clean the house you're living in. What happened to fairness? I guess her parents really were the only good addition, even though they were living in a fantastical comrade's paradise. Well, I guess, with the exception of her parents, it really has been what's yours is mine rather than what's mine is yours. So I guess that kind of explains why she just walked into this house acting like she lived there. Squatters' rights. But now, the pies aren't even just luxuries, they actually mean nothing. A meaningless gesture on the part of incognizant rulers. They don't really do anything helpful or understand their kingdom, but it's okay, because they bake us pies. Honestly, it kind of sounds like Michael Scott as a king, so maybe that's why it all works out.
Ice cream sandwiches! Ah! Here you go.
This isn't the big surprise, is it? Because we've been having a pretty horrible day.
Nope. This isn't the surprise. It's surprising.
Snow sings, "We scrubbed the house together." You absolutely did not. Don't even. You danced around while they cleaned. One of the dwarves says, "I forgot getting along could be so much fun." Sometimes when I watch too many movies like this, I forget that movies can be fun and good. Snow says that when she was a little girl, every day was like this. Actually, no, you did a lot more work as a girl. You were actually kind. You had a different actress then, too. Wow, then we shift so quickly into Snow saying that she has to find her father. Sudden, but it does make sense. So is this part of her journey into being less passive? Are we really gonna let a man save the day?
Leave the saving of the world to the men? I don't think so.
It's confusing whether or not she's already supposed to be a good leader, unless the huntsman earlier was just envisioning her potential. Based on what? But then here she doesn't do a good job leading, and the story wants me to think she did, so I don't know. I think she's supposed to already be capable, and that she's supposed to figure that out during the movie, after a man compliments her, I guess. That's why we've got to find the bandits who fight in the king's name. For real though, do we have to say the entire name every time? We know who you're talking about. No other bandits have been mentioned. This is why the movie's 2 hours long. Doc uses his thesaurus to tell us the bandits used to be actors but fell on hard times, and now because Snow has the hots for the lead bandit, you can call it gray morality instead of stealing. Wow. And now Grumpy's excited Snow is leaving instead of secretly wanting to protect her and her femininity. Terrible change. She says it's time to stop hiding and leaves to find the bandits as the dwarves head to work. I know we're quite a ways into the movie, but who styled Snow? Why does she look so bad? Why does her hair look like this? Why does her makeup look like this? Why does her dress look like this? I have seen very low budget community theater productions that looked better than this. She wanders aimlessly through the woods. Snow then hears a trumpet, some birds freak out, might be nature trying to warn her, but she doesn't listen. Then Thief yanks her behind a tree to hide her from the palace guards looking for her. Saved by a man? Disney, I didn't think you had it in you. Oh my gosh, what are her facial expressions here? What is this acting? The dialogue! Everything about their interaction is terrible. If not for the professional production, I would think I was watching community theater. You know what? That is not fair. I have seen some incredible community theater, much better than this. I don't think Zegler would even get cast in my community theater. They have actually talented people there. Actually, there are 2 community theaters in my community. She could get a part at one of them. They'll take anyone. But the other one, no way. I know she has to communicate all this relevant information to the prince, but we know this already, so it's quite repetitive. Time wasting. Conversations should not just be directly repeating information we already know, or directly summarizing information we need to know. That keeps happening too. So the new information we find out is that the bandits have no idea where the king is. It really seems like they're scummy people trying to just steal things, but in the king's name. What's even the point? People are going to be okay with it or feel hopeful about the fact that even though you've just been robbed, at least it was in the king's name. Isn't that kind of worse than what the queen's doing? There's banter. Is this flirting? It's terrible. And I thought I was bad at flirting. This is bad. They make weird comments about princesses waiting for men, so obviously a dig at what they think the original is, even though this Snow has done absolutely nothing without it being facilitated by a man. So this makes me think I'm not supposed to think she's passive. Wow, this movie is incredibly unself-aware and unaware of its own source material. Oh! Wow, okay, so this is probably the worst song in the entire movie. Did I already say that about the Queen's song? Well, it's been dethroned. The only thing that could possibly make this movie worse is if there's a song coming up sung by Awkwafina. I can't believe they didn't cast her as the mirror or a talking apple sidekick. Can you imagine that? You know, don't imagine that. Let's not give them any more ideas. So Thief justifies his stealing with times are hard and I don't have time to make an honest living or whatever. Okay, he does say famine's on the rise, so this would be the first time we've actually heard of anything particularly bad resulting from the Queen's leadership. Famines can just happen, but in this case, I think it's safe to assume it's the Queen. Because famines never happen in places where everyone shares everything. And doesn't famine actually make it worse that they're stealing? And if they're only stealing from the Queen, that hasn't been summarized in any of the conversations. Oh my goodness, this is worse than the Queen's song. I keep having to pause it because I can't stand listening to it. I would rather listen to Happy by Pharrell. I'd even rather listen to Loser from Has Been Hotel, and I hated that song. But I'd still rather listen to that. This song is just so uncomplicated, derogatory. After Snow's preschool speeches about sharing and fairness, the nuance we're getting is this man,
I use that term loosely,
singing about, well, life's not always fair. Just think, this movie could have been good. It is interesting that the thief is possibly being portrayed as being in the wrong now. We'll see. It's probably supposed to be he's not wrong for stealing, but he is wrong for not believing in Snow's dream.
Can't fix the world baking apple pies.
Okay, so he makes fun of the pies too, but the framing of the song makes me think he's supposed to be wrong for this, instead of giving some pushback and valid critique. We'll see. What is the point of this song aside from wasting my time? A good song would have had both of them making better points and also sound completely different. We meet the rest of the bandits. Oh, it's a very diverse crowd. Surely they can't be wrong about anything. Snow asks how he can be loyal to the king when he's just a common criminal. Yes, we are asking the right questions here. The crooks pull a wagon full of stolen goods by, no TVs or Nikes in there, but also not much you can eat. What's the point here? I mean, I know they're gonna fence it, but they're unemployed, failed actors, I guess? Is that gonna be relevant somehow? Why didn't they find a different job instead of resorting to banditry? In the king's name. How does that help you, the people of the kingdom, the reputation of the king? Have your fun now, I guess, because once my kingdom conquers yours, we're swiftly putting an end to all this. Of course, the thief doesn't answer Snow's question and instead tells us, halfway through the movie, that his name is Jonathan. This is such a weird and underwhelming reveal. Did they just forget to have him introduce himself earlier? He says, "The name's Jonathan, princess." Oh, not Jonathan, princess. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Stop writing scenes like this. It's like a knockoff of Marvel humor, which is already bottom of the barrel. I also want to point out that Snow calling Princess Jonathan a common criminal and then her question getting ignored is another example of Disney trying to appeal to its opposing audiences. The soldiers attack, interrupting the very end of the song. I sure wish they'd shown up earlier so we didn't have to hear all that. The bandits are outnumbered and they're looking for Snow. Surprisingly, Jonathan Princess tells Snow to run and they'll hold the soldiers off. This is the correct move. Snow says she'll stay and fight. Oh, Disney really is trying to make everyone happy here. But what was she gonna do? What skills does she have? We don't see her fight, so people like me who would point out how stupid that is are placated. But she still says that she can fight, so people who look at tiny, inexperienced woman and think, yeah, she's just as strong as a man, are also placated. Well done, Disney. Snow says, I'm making it a fair fight. What? No, you would get in the way, making it harder for them because they would have to protect you directly while fighting the guards. Or completely break any suspension of disbelief and have you girl boss your way to victory. Jonathan Princess says he doesn't fight fair.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Man, I wish there was some nuance in this movie rather than just using the word fair in different contexts. Okay, then they charge the soldiers with almost no weapons and just throw sticks around and somehow are doing okay? Yeah, okay, maybe Snow would have done all right if this is what she was up against. Actors versus farmers. Place your bets now. What if I just segued into an ad read for a sports betting company? Can you imagine? The animals in Snow use some of the stolen clothes to lure away the soldiers, which is fine on its own, even if it was a costume from their acting days. It's not like it's relevant to the story at all. I hope you placed your bets on the farmers because they do win in the end. Sorry your diversity hires didn't work out, Princess Jonathan. My main complaint with this scene is that it hinges upon the captain leaving his horse tied up alone, far away. If your scene depends on people being stupid, maybe, perhaps, it's a stupid scene. I do like that Snow didn't resort to girl boss fighting and had to rely on problem-solving skills we've never seen her use before. You know, did Snow even come up with this idea? It was the animals trying to get her attention. But even though I guess it wasn't even her idea, or even her executing most of the plan, she gloats about saving the bandits.
Save Bandit!
Once she gets back to them. I knew it! I knew Disney wasn't gonna let a man save a woman. She got to save him, kind of, and gloat about it. Oh, Disney, you never let me down. Just to be clear, I don't mind if a woman rescues a man in a story. I don't mind, in fact, I personally like, when stories explore different and even unexpected aspects of masculinity and femininity. My problem is that they are obviously trying to subvert masculinity and femininity while also understanding neither. Wow, she continues to belittle him while he constantly affirms and compliments her. I know I keep saying wow, but it's just bad. I guess this is supposed to be flirty banter? Even I don't flirt like this. Teasing is not the same as belittling, oh my gosh. Princess Jonathan tells us, because even though this movie is 2 hours long, there's no way to show us that the people have forgotten how things used to be. They hate the queen, but are afraid to fight. That's why they fight in her father's name. Except they don't fight, they just steal. Okay, so it is supposed to be a positive thing that you're stealing and not contributing positively to the kingdom in any way? This movie is all over the place. And I think it's partially because they are trying to make everyone happy. Wait, does she have red lipstick on here? I do not remember seeing that earlier. I don't want to lose my place in the movie and have to find it again. That sounds like a pain. But later, I'm gonna go back and check that. A soldier tries to shoot Snow with a crossbow. What's that called? A bolt? Yeah, it's a bolt. But I guess on one hand, to his credit, Jonathan jumps in front and takes the bolt for her, saving her. However, why didn't he just pull Snow out of the way? Someone with more crossbow experience, please tell me if that's a reasonable expectation, because to me, it seems like if you had time to jump completely in front of her, and you were right there, you would have had more than enough time just to move her, and then no one gets hurt. And if you want to excuse this by saying, oh, he was under pressure, no, stop it. Unless the point is very clearly that a character is under a lot of stress, if you have to excuse a character's stupid actions by saying they were stressed, it's bad writing. Don't excuse bad writing. This is why writing is so bad. So yeah, I do love that he was willing to take a bolt for his girl, but he looked real stupid while doing it. You know, just a little something to make everyone happy. Again, maybe that's why this movie is 2 hours, but also nothing is happening. It's basically two different versions of the same movie spliced together. Well, after singing Princess Problems, Jonathan Princess says, I think we have a problem, Princess. Why do they keep doing this? You know one of the writers thinks they're really clever for this. Then she takes them to the dwarves because they have Doc.
Hello, Doctor. How are you?
No, not that one.
The bandits and the dwarves meet. It's terrible. The dwarves are actually stupid. I get Snow isn't that smart, but even she treated them like they were stupid, so why would she think they could help? Snow whistles loudly. Good thing we had that long song to explain why she's so good at whistling, or this would make even less sense. Then she yells at them for not getting along. Wow, such good leadership skills. What an inspirational speech! But it does reflect what happened in the Whistle While You Work song. There's no discussion of the problems and solving them as a good leader would do. It's just shut up and work together. I do get that here they are under a time crunch, Princess Jonathan's life is on the line, and sometimes you do need to shut up and do your job, but if you have this much time for Snow's uninspirational speech, do it less bad. Snow says, if we can give up our meager scraps, we will inherit what was meant for all of us. It's more than we can imagine. Which is a weird line, but I guess she's trying to say that if you guys work together, you'll have more than meager scraps. It's the kind of idea that could be great if fleshed out more. In a 2-hour movie. She says they just need to have faith in each other. But how are you going to do that if you don't trust each other and have unresolved issues? You're just uniting over a shared threat? That is a very temporary solution, something a good leader would be aware of. So then Snow demands Doc help Jonathan Princess.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
But why? Does it just work out because she had faith in him? Maybe if you hadn't established the dwarves as being complete morons, this would work better. The things this movie establishes and gives unnecessary backstory to is hilarious. But then something that could easily have been established earlier, like actual medical knowledge and not being stupid, that's just something I have to accept. I mean, all we know about Doc is that he's literate, probably, and has a word-a-day calendar.
I'm not technically a doctor. I don't even have a medical degree. I just came in here one day for an x-ray, and my first name is Doctor. So, well, one thing led to another. Ciao.
Wait, Dr. Princess!
Everyone waits outside. Doc does a bait and switch to let everyone know that Jonathan Princess is all right.
You said he was all right.
Yes, he's lost his left hand, so he's going to be all right.
You son of a...
They joke about Snow's special friend. There's awkward banter or flirting or whatever. Then they recreate the dance scene from the original, but now with the dwarves and the bandits. Of course, this scene is kind of meaningless here, just an empty reference to the original. Whereas in the original, we saw the positive influence Snow White's femininity had on everyone as she sang a song about the masculinity of the prince that she yearned for and was eventually reunited with. There's a budding relationship between this bandit with dwarfism and this lady bandit of color. Now, I want to be very clear, I do not have any issues with the dynamics of this relationship whatsoever. What I do have a problem with is the same reason I have a problem with Zegler's casting. What is the purpose of it besides checking boxes? You'd think the crazy diversity people would be offended by this kind of crap because it's meaningless. This relationship adds nothing to the story except box ticking. This mindset is so offensive. It reduces humans to a set of boxes that need to be checked. Stop it. Zegler sings the love song in the movie and realizes she does have a crush on Jonathan Princess. The sound of the song and all the lanterns and Jonathan Princess being a very poor man's Eugene Fitzherbert really make it seem like they're trying to go for a Tangled vibe here, except that they have zero chemistry with each other. Can you imagine if they get married and her name is now Princess? Oh wait, she's a strong, independent woman. She would never take his name, he would steal hers. Why would her parents even think to name her Snow White after a blizzard, though? Would her siblings have been named Rain Blue or Forest Green? Why not just name her Winter? I don't know, it's a dumb change. There's nothing really of substance in the lyrics, just saying maybe they don't have to be alone and they think the other is attractive. Real deep stuff here. It's really funny that they're trying to expand on the relationship in this movie because no one understands the prince's role in the original. I do think this scene could be beautiful if either character was consistent and likable, and also if they had any chemistry. Don't they screen test for that kind of thing? This song does, however, contain the funniest bit in the entire movie. I can't fake laugh for the life of me, but I wish I could have captured how hard I was laughing at this. I was wheezing. So one of the complaints about the first movie was how dare the prince kiss the unconscious Snow White, who could only be awakened by true love's kiss. How dare he kiss her without consent?
However, I do not have her consent. It's always important to obtain consent.
I talk about how stupid this is in my first video, so I'm not going to get into it here. But in this song, there's a line that says, "And maybe I'm dreaming. Well, I'd like to stay just like this. But if there's a world where you wake me, promise to wake me with a kiss." There it is. Consent and a kiss. Consent to make those people happy, and still including the kiss to make all the regular people happy. Wowee! What a movies. All one of them. They almost kiss, but don't. By trying to flesh this relationship out more, I actually buy it less. We hear the soldier's horn. Why do they keep doing that? Don't they know it might alert the people they're looking for? Someone with more expertise on this, do let me know. Please and thank you. Princess Jonathan says he'll be back in 2 days because he doesn't want the soldiers to find the cottage and he's going to lure them away. She can't come with him because it's dangerous, because she's who they're looking for.
Louise, don't go down there, it's dangerous! Louise, don't go down there, it's dangerous! Louise, don't go down there, it's dangerous!
I think we got it.
But when he gets back, they'll go to the Southern Kingdom and find her father. I do like, nay, I love, that she gives him her heart locket, the one her dad gave her, so that he has a reason to come back. Super cute, if I bought them as a couple. The soldiers are looking throughout the forest for Snow. Jonathan Princess talks really weirdly to himself about how he's a good guy now. If he changed, it wasn't really well done. In the original, Snow White changed people through her feminine influence. Here, Jonathan just thinks she's pretty. Snow is literally just reduced to her looks.
Do you think I'm just a pretty face?
Mom. I guess they kind of tried with the Princess Problem songs, but did either of them make any points? They tried, they failed. As Jonathan Princess is talking to himself, he walks directly into a trap and is taken to the Queen. He makes some jokes that if every movie wasn't written like this, I might find funny. I think I called this knockoff Marvel humor earlier. The Queen asks where Snow is, then sees the heart-shaped locket around his neck. That's actually a good detail that's been naturally included throughout the film. The Queen takes the locket, Jonathan Princess, I should just say JP, because I'm not going to stop calling him Princess, but I also don't want this video to be 2 hours long because I insist on saying the entire name every time. JP says that the Queen will never win because she doesn't know Snow, which means nothing because he doesn't know Snow and neither do we, really. The only thing she has working in her favor is the story wanting everything to work out for her, which is really weak from a storytelling perspective, but the greatest strength you can have if you are said character.
Symbol of good against a symbol of evil. And I know I'm gonna be the victor. Because the symbol of good always wins? No, because the lead in a television series always wins.
I mean, where's her hope and perseverance? I don't just mean a one-off mention in one line in one song. Show me, don't tell me, and be consistent. JP gets taken to the dungeon, and then we get what are probably the most disappointing scenes in the movie. So the Dark Forest sequence was obviously better and more meaningful in the original, but still acceptable and at the very least fun to watch. But the Evil Queen's transformation sequence is actually bad. It's just a bunch of jump cuts with the same purple smoke. The sequence continues to be disappointing.
A voice as creaky as a cackle, a hunching hag with wrinkled skin.
Hag maxing.
Not to be mean, but it's terrible. It just sounds like her. It doesn't sound older. She sounds auto-tuned to be old, if that makes sense. Just what a lame transformation, especially after the original went so hard. It wasn't just impressive because it was Disney's first full-length animated film, it's just an amazing animated sequence in general. One of the best in the whole film. And to not even try here, that's kind of pathetic. I do like the Queen's underground prison lair. I need one of these in my house. Although I am moving in a couple weeks and there's this creepy duct-taped door that's in my closet. So I don't know. We haven't been able to open it yet, but who knows what'll be in there. Maybe I can put my prison lair in there. JP tries to escape, the huntsman tells him not to bother. The Queen makes the poison apple, which visually is okay. There's some visual nods to the original, but still doesn't hold a candle to it.
Poison apples. Hey, Red Dye 40 is poison to humans, right?
Is that what you have all over your arms? Where did you even get that? The only planet that's even legal on is Earth.
I know a guy.
Of course. Apparently it's 2 days later now because Snow is preparing to leave. A vulture flies around and chases the birds off as the hag makes her way through the forest. Snow is still at the dwarf's cottage, humming, and oh, I thought she was setting the table for the dwarves as a nice gesture, maybe a thank you. But no, she's packing her bag full of their food for her journey.
Snow White would never.
No kidding. She thinks it's Jonathan Princess at the door, but it's the hag, who is way more suspicious than in the original. Wow. So in the original, again, not gonna get too much into it, but it was Snow White's kindness that was both her greatest strength and her greatest weakness. She was too kind and couldn't turn the old woman away, even though the animals tried to warn her. Here, the hag has a message for her from JP, which is supposed to be believable because she has the locket. but if he was captured by the queen, how would she get the locket? How would he have gotten the locket to someone to send a message? I guess Snow is naive, well, except when she's not and she's really clever. This was a very meaningful scene in the original and, not surprisingly, completely meaningless in this. The animals don't warn her, they immediately leave to get the dwarves. Snow says she needs to go to JP. Oh, all the characters saying, "What of the danger?"
Dangerous!
Over and over and over again throughout the movie, and Snow dismissing them. Is that supposed to be showing me Snow being brave? Well, more fearless. That is probably what they were trying to do. I guess it's marginally better than the characters just directly saying, "Wow, you are so brave." Good thing that never happened. Then the queen really suspiciously gives her an apple to sustain her on the road. So yes, the apples do represent generosity. So I guess the poison apple represents the queen's greed, which it's okay, I guess. But it really worked better when it was the beautiful apple on the outside, but poison within, like the queen. And Snow White was fooled by the beauty of the apple and led astray by her own kindness. They're trying to do too much here, and it's become watered down and less impactful. Beauty hides greed within, I guess specifically in this movie, kind of. It's really messy. In the original,
while the other dwarves were panicking, Grumpy got them to focus on what they needed to do, save Snow White.
This was because he was the most affected by Snow White's influence and because of his naturally risk-averse nature, and because of good writing. Here, Grumpy's just annoyed, like he always is, and Doc, the least dumb one, realizes Snow is in trouble. How do you miss the point of a movie this egregiously?
I can't believe what they did to my boy Grumpy.
I can't believe what you're doing to my kitchen.
Our kitchen.
You don't even have taste buds. What could you possibly be doing in there?
Cooking is an art. You wouldn't understand.
I don't know if I want to. So, for some reason, instead of packing it in her bag for later, Snow takes a big bite of the apple right then. The hag reveals that she's the queen and that she had Snow's father killed. He lost his throne because he was too good, which could tie into the whole diamond and flower thing and the queen being harsh and power hungry, if we're doing too much work for the story. Then the queen says, "Now who's the fairest one of all?" as Snow falls into the sleeping death or whatever it's called here. Also, she's still alive, so she's still the fairest one of all. I'm gonna have to check, but I'm pretty sure the queen knew about the True Love's Kiss antidote, while in the original she didn't find out about that until later. So here, why wouldn't the queen just have someone kill JP, even as a precaution? She's evil. She clearly suspected there was something going on between them. Why risk it? She doesn't benefit in any way by leaving him alive. Okay, I went back and checked. She knows that JP is the love interest because she looks over to where he's chained up after she reads it. She's pretty quick to resort to murder. This wouldn't be the first time she's killed, so what's up with that? A storm begins, but the lightning has no significance the way it did in the original, where she tried to harness the lightning for her own evil machinations, and the lightning is what contributed to her death in the end. Here, it's again just, hey, remember that in the original? It's exhausting. The dwarves arrive back at their cottage and find Snow. The mirror tells the queen that she's still the fairest of all. Her power is safe, even though nothing seemed to change about her power when Snow was supposedly the most beautiful. Or the most fair, sorry. The subjects disappointedly hail the queen. The village looks pretty much the same, just desaturated. What is nice is the scene of Snow's funeral. Still less impactful because Grumpy's reaction meant more in the original. Everything did. But the scenery is nice, and as disappointing as it is that that's one of the few things that's sometimes okay about this movie, it is sadly a huge improvement over other Disney live-action remakes. Jonathan Princess is still trying to escape. The huntsman tells the audience that he's been doing this every day for a while. What's that quote again? Something about insanity being trying the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. JP says Snow reminded him what it meant to have courage and hope. And yeah, I do see that they were trying to do that. Execution leaves so much to be desired. He says Snow fought with them and never gave up on them, but Really, they volunteered first to protect her, and then she stayed and helped, so how can she inspire you to do something you were already doing? Snow was also not really hopeful. Snow White was hopeful, but Snow was passive and childish. I think that Snow should have inspired them, but that's not really what happened. The story is trying to tell me that's what happened, but not showing me. They tried, but trying is not good enough. So I guess seeing a girl be pretty inspired JP to try every day the exact same way to escape. Which is actually fine, but the movie definitely wasn't supposed to be about men being inspired by women's beauty. First of all, I'm so sorry, but I'd recommend casting someone beautiful, mostly of character, that makes you look beautiful outwardly anyways. But also, it was supposed to be Snow's actions that inspired him. What actions? This movie has happened to Snow. She hasn't done or decided anything meaningful in this entire story. And the biggest problem with that is that I know that's not what they intended, especially because this was supposed to right the wrongs of the supposedly passive protagonist in the original, when in reality, Snow White was active. She was indirect. That is how a lot of feminine influence works. It's often indirect, but she was active. She didn't sit around waiting for things to happen to her. She went out and actively influenced the world around her in a positive way. Anyways, the actions Snow didn't take, and definitely not just her beauty,
Is beauty all that matters? And you say, what else is there?
inspired JP, who then inspired the Huntsman, and then together they broke out of the cell. This would be great if the movie was consistent, set this up, and everything led to this moment. It is kind of pathetic that after all this time they didn't try both of them pulling on the chain, although maybe JP loosened it over time, whatever. He escapes and commits grand theft equine to go after Snow, and the wildlife leads him to her. The use of the animals is really inconsistent in this. He finds Snow and wow, the scenery is beautiful. And listen, I don't really enjoy watching other people kiss.
Are y'all kissing in there?
But he did not look like he wanted to kiss her. He looked pained. That's the face I'm making watching this. Snow wakes up, they kiss again. He still looks pained. He's probably supposed to be grieved and then relieved. I assume that's what the intention was, but the expressions he's making are weird. Everyone's expressions in this movie are weird. Snow then immediately reveals that the queen murdered her father. What a touching reunion. There's a weird sound as a single snowflake falls from the sky. I guess this is supposed to represent her resilience or something, maybe? She sings that she's supposed to find the girl she's supposed to be. She needs to learn that this kingdom is her destiny. I think you mean our kingdom. Oh, later she does say it's time to restore our kingdom. Okay. So, is she supposed to have learned anything on the way or find herself on the way? Because neither really happened. She wasn't even a consistent character. Who saw this girl audition and thought, yes, it's giving Snow White? I don't think there's any Disney princess she could play. Maybe Moana? Moana's a lot more bubbly. I don't know, she just doesn't seem like a good actress to me, but she seems especially unsuited to playing a Disney princess. Maybe she could pull off Merida? Maybe Mulan? No, she would never be able to pull off Mulan. But maybe Merida. Maybe. I'd love to see the story explain that casting. Looks aside, I think her natural personality wouldn't be as out of place with someone like Merida. Still not a great choice though. It feels like she wants to be acting in a Marvel movie but has to hold herself back and pretend to be a princess. It just really stood out to me in this scene. She's not gentle and kind. She's not acting gentle and kind. She's pretending to be her idea of what those are. So she's supposed to have also inspired Dopey to talk now. And he was the narrator at the beginning. Man, can you just not talk again the rest of the movie, please? Go back to being selectively mute. Maybe that was a good life choice for you. But in theory, it's a fine idea. It's just, like so much in this movie, the execution that's bad, and also the choice of voice actor. She says for everyone to follow her because she's going to lead instead of being led now. So it's kind of a weird girl boss moment because she's making such a big deal about being in charge now, and also has no qualifications or skills that make me trust her. If the original Snow White asked me to follow her, I would be surprised because that's awfully direct for her, but I would trust her because she demonstrated throughout the whole movie that she could be a good leader.
Father would love this village.
He would indeed. He loves Tudor architecture. Anyways, while the dwarves sneak in through the secret entrance previously established through the prince's escape, are there really no guards? I know the huntsman said he'd take care of the guards, but no one's been back to check since then. Seems like a pretty dangerous weak point in your defenses. Snow appears in the village with a red cloak on. Is this Little Red Riding Hood now? What's the plan here? The soldiers rush to the main gate. Snow dramatically takes off her hood, and the little girl that Snow gave a flower crown to is for some reason at this very moment again holding a flower crown. Maybe she's just been standing there holding it this whole time. Yeah, maybe that's why you guys aren't doing so well. And the little girl puts it on because she believes in Snow. Snow smiles back really weirdly. I am so sorry I keep bringing this up, but she keeps making super weird facial expressions.
Mom. You're making weird faces again.
No, I'm not.
Flower Crown Girl and the other villagers sing in the background as Snow walks through the town. Okay, so yeah, she wasn't supposed to learn along the way. She was supposed to find or learn about the strong leader she already was this whole time. Oh my gosh. She sings, "You are everything you were wishing and waiting for." Yup. Incredibly passive. Wishing and waiting to find out who you already were this whole time. The typical girl boss arc, if you can call it that.
At least the queen still got that drip.
Yeah, it is interesting that we get to see the queen return to her beautiful form. Snow walks up to the castle, the guards stop her, the queen comes out. Snow says this is her father's house. The queen stole it because she had her father killed. The queen tells us directly that Snow is this flower that she conjures from thin air. Pretty, delicate, elegant, exquisite. Then she turns the flower to dust, because they don't want a flower. A flower cannot keep you safe. Then she pulls out her diamond sword.
You cannot afford my diamond sword.
I don't think I ever watched Hibiscus. I just remember my siblings being obsessed with him when we were younger. And I'm haunted by his voice every time I play Skyrim. Anyways, she pulls out her diamond dagger because she too is perfect and powerful and beautiful. They actually presented the queen's perspective very well here at least. It's incomplete because it's just her half. We don't really get Snow's thoughts on anything. But at least the queen's perspective is clear. She thinks Snow is just a pretty face, which is weird. So because of the rose symbolism, she was admitting that Snow is beautiful the whole time? It's not that she knew but was in denial of it. I guess it's supposed to be that, yes, they're both fair as in beautiful, but the queen is fairer because she's also a stronger leader, in her mind. But also Snow is fairer because she believes in fairness and everybody sharing. Boy, is this not handled consistently in the movie. I think in this scene, the queen's main issue is that she thinks Snow is weak. And if the story wanted to go down this road with the symbolism, then okay. Show and contrast the strengths of a harsher form of leadership, a regime that protects and makes tough decisions that in the long run are good for the kingdom, but in the present are unpopular with the people. Because we already saw what happened when the king was a little too kind-hearted and trusting. But that's not what the story was about, and there wasn't any nuance anyways. The queen was just goofily and stupidly evil because she refused to share her toys with the other kids. The queen then hands Snow the dagger and then tells Snow to stab her. I guess because what is a flower going to do to a diamond? Is she trying to say that if Snow sees her as such a threat, what is she gonna do about it? Of course Snow refuses. I mean, if the symbolism had been more clear and consistent, this could be fine, but there was no focus. What is this movie about?
'Cause I can't tell.
The queen calls the guards and tells them to execute Snow in front of the people. She is their symbol of hope, so this is a powerful move from the queen. It'd be more powerful if the story had been about hope, but whatever. But the queen is not merciful. She will not show mercy. If you had any hope, it dies today. So as the farmer approaches Snow, she calls his name, and it's Paul? Why?
Paul? What is this, Dune?
Just seems like a weird name for a fantasy movie. It gets worse, though. Remember how Snow remembered all the dwarves' names instantly because she told us her mother taught her it was important to remember people's names, and I said it was important to remember that moment? Well, that's how Snow saves her life and her kingdom, but doesn't save this movie by remembering people's names.
What is it? A brilliant idea. Well, that's what we need, a brilliant idea.
Do I even need to explain why this is so incredibly stupid? I've seen this theme before in really weird stories about how important it is to remember very specific details about people, basically reducing it to people are the small details of their life. That's the most important thing about them, and we have a duty to remember those details. That's not what's happening here. I'm just saying I've seen it before. And I'm not saying it's not polite and you shouldn't try to remember people's names, but story-wise, what's the point? It's feminine to remember names? Is this what they think being indirect is? This is kindness? Good for you and your good memory, I guess. Couldn't be me. But she doesn't have particularly good manners, just barging into the dwarves' house, getting it dirty, and then telling them to clean up after themselves and her in their own home, taking their food, but then I guess all is forgiven because she remembers their names. This is insanely dumb as a surface level plot point, but even symbolically it's dumb. I don't know. Maybe, again, if I'm being too helpful to the writers, too generous in my analysis, perhaps she was helping them find who they already were the whole time. Farmers. Just like she had to find out who she already was this whole time. But wait, no, because it wasn't about them being farmers at all, it was just about her knowing their names. What is the point of any of this? Throughout the movie, Snow looks to the past for hope for the future and encourages others to do the same. The soldiers all say, they remember now, but that's it. It's barely connected. It was probably the most consistent element of the movie, but it was hardly the point. Snow makes weird faces while she tries to sound authoritative and awkwardly says,
Leave now and never come back!
Oh, whoopsie, that's not the right clip. Sorry, couldn't tell the difference.
Leave. Now. And never come back.
The queen tries to stab Snow with the diamond dagger, and a man bandit...
No.
Yes.
Don't you do it.
A mandit.
You deserve the pie I'm making for you.
Oh, for me, you're too kind.
A
mandit saves her. Yes, saved by a man again. Am I supposed to believe it's her indirect positive influence over others that saved her though? Because the original had men and women working together and masculinity and femininity balancing each other out. None of that's going on here. You don't have to make a shot-for-shot remake. I mean, I'd rather you made an original and good movie. But if you have to do a remake, especially of an already good movie that doesn't need a remake, you at the very least must understand the essence of what made that movie good in the first place. And the writers and actors, whoever in this movie, completely misunderstood or disliked what made the original good, backtracked because they kind of realized the huge mistake they'd made. But the real huge mistake is this movie, because it sucks.
Man, this is terrible. Those guys are really overpaid.
And it's still not quite over, so let's get on with it, because I want to play some Tears of the Kingdom before I go to bed. By which I mean lay awake for hours in horrible pain, waiting for morning to come so I can do it all over again, baby! Let's go! Okay, where were we? Everyone's clapping, not me. The dwarves are here. They did something, probably. The queen is upset and goes into her mirror room, exclaiming how she's still the fairest. But the mirror says the queen's beauty is only skin deep, while Snow's beauty comes from within. Which, thankfully for her, is much more important than external beauty. But also, where? I know they were trying to do both the fairest of them all was the one with internal beauty and good character, and that said character would make someone a fair leader, the fairest in the land, but there was no consistency.
Oh no! I just want consistency!
The queen smashes her own mirror, which visually is cool, but I guess, why did she smash it? Because of her anger and jealousy? She was still clearly powerful. Was the mirror breaking supposed to be the diamond cracking under extreme pressure? I I think it's really cool that the mirror spoke truth and she couldn't argue with that, but then she turned to ash or something, like Voldemort in the first Harry Potter movie, but Dumbledore isn't here to explain away the plot holes, so what are we gonna do here? Was she committing Canadian healthcare? With the mirror and magic lore we already have, wouldn't it make more sense for it to crack on its own? This seems like self-sabotage, which again, could have been, but wasn't the point. Modern media is just full of visually beautiful yet meaningless scenes. I've talked with Ghost before about how modern Western culture seems obsessed with aesthetics that are divorced from their purpose or meaning, and that shows up in our media as well. Alright, we're still not done. It gets more confusing. Now the ashy queen gets pulled into the mirror and then it heals itself. I'm sorry, what? Did they just not know how to end things, so we ended up with this? Did it mean something at one point, but now doesn't because of all the rewrites? What were the other options? Well, at least we ended up with Snow seeing her full reflection in the mirror. She has fully come into the girl boss that she always was the whole time. And if I remember right, she did gradually see more and more of her reflection throughout the movie, even if it wasn't accompanied by concurrent and relevant character development. That, in a very well-written movie, would be a really cool visual detail. I got nothing about the queen's death though. What the heck even was that? Princess Jonathan, the huntsmen, the dwarves, and the soldiers all bow to her, which would actually be meaningful if she had proven herself to be a capable leader. Oh no! Dopey's narrating the ending too. No! No! Alright, well at least you don't have to hear it. I'll spare you. Maybe. So, what's absolutely hilarious about this ending is that Dopey says that she was a virtuous queen who believed that the true beauty of her land was not to be measured in gems or jewels, but in its people. So, do you remember the beginning of this movie where Snow says that you have to give people things for them to be happy? And to be fair, I think it was probably supposed to be that she cared about the people and because of that wanted to give them things. However, I'm told the message that people are important, but shown, and you know what, also told. There was some really direct dialogue about how things are important. The queen is wrong for saying people don't need luxuries, like apple pies, and the movie confirms this visually as well. The people have luxuries, they're happy. No luxuries, they're sad and desaturated. End of the movie, they have things, luxuries again, and they're happy. It's not like Snow learned that she was wrong about that. I don't think Snow was wrong about anything ever. Man, we really are having our apples and eating them too in this movie.
Did I hear something about eating apples?
I don't know, man. Are those actually apples?
Want to find out?
Appealing to my curiosity. Gets me every time. You know me too well, Ghost. Dopey tells us that the queen was fearless, fair, brave, and true. I mean, he has to, because we didn't really see that. He's reading from the storybook, everyone's in white, everyone dances and sings a reprise of the first song. The movie does end with the most genuine smile I've ever seen on Zegler. If she had this energy throughout the movie, I think she could have passed for Snow White. So I don't know if it was the mood she was in when they shot this scene or if it was just bad directing in the rest of the movie, but it is nice to see that she can at least appear genuine. The illustration of her in the storybook is very beautiful as well, but it's just her, not her and Princess Jonathan. Can't have a man overshadow all the things she didn't accomplish in this movie. I will say the end credits were pretty cute. I wish I was seeing them at the end of a good movie. Oh my gosh, the visual effects supervisor is named Max Wood.
This joke here.
Well, that's it. That's the movie. Well, that was disappointing and frankly disrespectful to the original film that made this movie possible. And the funniest thing to me is how incredibly dated it already is. You will always be able to tell this movie was made in the early to mid 2020s. The original is timeless because it's got good storytelling and good values and truths that aren't tied to any specific era. On the other hand, this movie went through so many rewrites, not because they wanted a good story, but because they wanted to know which group they needed to appeal to. Not even to make money, because when's the last time Disney did that? But you can tell they were really trying to appeal to everyone, and that's another reason it failed. It couldn't say anything for risk of saying the wrong thing. So, what were the main issues in order that I think of them? Poor casting, bad acting, bad direction, weird expressions on everyone. The The story's symbolism and theming were meaningless and inconsistent. We were told things instead of shown things that contradicted what we were told. There was no depth to the story. The characters were all stupid and inconsistent. The conversations were just simplistic summaries of what a conversation in a story should be. The movie was more concerned with appealing to their various target audiences rather than telling a good story. Things from the original were giving meaningless backstory rather than being expanded upon in a meaningful way. Even if you don't compare it to the source material, it's still a bad movie on its own. So I went back and she sometimes has red lipstick and sometimes doesn't. Either way, I mean, just make her look more like the character she's supposed to be playing. What the heck? Snow White is an established character with an established look that we expect to see. One thing I didn't really get into is the lack of masculinity in this movie. You know what? The lack of femininity as well. In the original, Snow White and the Evil Queen both, respectively, represented positive and negative aspects of femininity. And while the original film clearly focused on femininity more, it still had strong representations of masculinity as well, from the huntsman willing to protect Snow's innocence, the dwarves whose masculinity was unbalanced and they needed to learn from Snow White, to the prince who ultimately served as the healthy other half to Snow White's femininity. It focused more on femininity, but really was about the balance and benefit men and women can be to each other. They're stereotypes for a reason, but masculinity and femininity can really look so many different ways. And I love when stories explore that, but it's not like we got a really sensitive but still masculine guy, it's just this guy.
Are you saying I'm not a male man? Is that what you're trying to say? I'm not male? I'm not a man?
And Snow herself is amorphous and lacking in any kind of identifiable and consistent character traits. She doesn't represent femininity. Really, she more represents the negative aspects of femininity and characters in general. She's passive. She doesn't really do anything. She waits around for stuff to happen. Obviously, not every time. Like I said, she's not consistent. But I don't think the storytellers understand the difference between passivity and being indirect. Snow White is indirect. Most of the time. She was pretty commanding when Grumpy wouldn't listen. But her influence is helpful, hopeful, and positive, whereas Snow is just there in her own story, which is especially funny considering how much Zegler complained about that in regards to the original, claiming that Snow White was passive. I mean, maybe she didn't even watch the movie, or is she just incapable of any serious analysis? I don't know. There was probably a girl boss version of the script out there that got changed after all the backlash, but what we ended up with doesn't just show a misunderstanding of the source material and storytelling, it also shows a fundamental misunderstanding of people and masculinity and femininity. Snow White is feminine in a stereotypical and idealized way, but she's also not the only way to be feminine, and if writers, in general, not just this movie, if writers understood femininity and appreciated its inherent strengths, we could have some diversity in our female characters. Some gentle and sweet like Snow White, some like Hermione from Harry Potter, Sakura from Naruto, Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender. These characters are extremely caring and principled, but also bossy and pushy. Then there's women like Lady Eboshi from Princess Mononoke, or Julie Andrews as the queen in the Princess Diaries movies. Not the book, she is absolutely terrifying and kind of awful in the books. But these are women who are commanding, yet still caring. All feminine, but in very different ways. Just because the majority of women aren't exactly like Snow White doesn't mean she's not a great character everyone can appreciate and even be inspired by. I think characters like Hermione, Sakura, and Katara would best represent the average woman, whereas the Snow Whites, the Lady Eboshis of the world, they're less common but still feminine. Heck, even women like Toph are feminine, in their own way. I'm not like Snow White at all. Thankfully, I'm not like Snow either. But even though I'm not feminine in the same way, I can still be inspired by her kindness, her caring nature, and how she is both firm and gentle. I think the push for more direct representation and unhealthily masculine women in media is unhelpful to everyone. If you're gonna do it, we need more Tophs and less Brie Larsons. But you don't need to see someone who looks like you in media anyway. Who cares if a character looks like you? Storytelling isn't for validating who you already are. You shouldn't ever be satisfied with who you currently are anyways. Always keep pursuing growth. Storytelling is about exploring ideas and consequences, positive and negative, through the plot and the characters. Stories have the potential to shape your worldview, which is why you need to engage with good stories actively, not passively, and also have a firm grasp of reality to allow you to interpret and learn from media in a grounded way. One great thing in the movie was Snow's parents encouraging her to have a vision of who she wanted to become, even though it just meant finding within herself who she already was this whole time. Aside from that, this is a good point. You do need a vision of who you want to be and the humility and courage, I guess, to admit your present faults. When you work on your own stories, focus on telling a story, not forcing a message or trying not to offend anyone by not having a message at all. Have some creative integrity. Storytelling is an art and one we should take seriously. I take very few things seriously, but storytelling is one of them. Well, that's it. I cannot believe you watched the whole thing. Please stop, don't like, don't comment. Most of all, please stop subscribing. Any new subscribers will be force-fed Ghost's pie.
You know what else is an art?
Oh, I'm afraid to ask.
Baking.
Well, do I get to see the fruits of your labors? Oh, this is really nice. You made this for me?
I did.
This is just pixels. What the heck am I supposed to do with this?
Don't subscribe. Where have you been?
In the kitchen.
Actually, that's not true.
I'm sick.
Boo, you